Sadly, I rise tonight to speak following the passing of two eminent South Australians, Deborah McCulloch and Reg Coutts. And I will speak about each of these remarkable individuals in turn, but at the outset I extend my condolences to their both of their families and friends. Deborah McCulloch. It was with a heavy heart that I received the news from Josepha Sobski, the national convener of the Women's Electoral Lobby, that Deborah McCulloch passed away a few days ago. Josepha wrote that Deborah was part of the first meeting of WELL in my home state of South Australia in July 1972. Deborah was a feminist, a leader in the women's liberation movement. She wanted to do something useful instead of, and I quote, going around defining the problem yet again. She knew that creating influence was at the heart of making change. And while she went on to hold positions of authority in South Australia, she really made a lasting impression in all that she did. Deborah began her working life as an English teacher before becoming a lecturer in the then Salisbury College of Advanced Education, now part of the University of South Australia. And as an English teacher, she had a profound impact on many young South Australians. My dear friend, Steph Key, who came to work with Deborah, and indeed who represented Deborah as her state MP, tells me she has met literally hundreds of women who volunteered to her that Deborah was a major influence in their lives. As a teacher 60-odd years ago, she put lessons of literature into social context, inspiring her students to care about politics and the world, and she kept track of their progress as they made their way in the world. And her students were delighted by her. From the rebellious black stockings she wore at a time when beige was the only acceptable leg covering, to the thoroughly marked essays she would return, replete with thoughtful feedback and splattered with red wine. It wasn't just that she was bold, which she was. She also took an interest in her students. She encouraged young people to find their talents and figure out how to use them to realise their passions. Deborah's career took a dramatic turn when she was appointed Women's Advisor to the Premier of South Australia, Don Dunstan, in May 1976. Given a brief to eliminate sexism in the South Australian Public Service, hardly a small task, she quickly realised this would require a major structural, cultural and systemic revolution, and was therefore unlikely to happen quickly. And she focused on establishing what she called alternative services run by women for women, and they were innovations at the time. And during her period as Women's Advisor from 1976 to 1979, the Women's Information Service was established, followed by the Working Women's Centre and then the Rape Crisis Centre. And these women's services led to others like women's health centres. She helped establish the women's shelter movement in South Australia. She was always a collectivist and always shared the credit amongst her fellow activists, mostly women, but as she said, also some good men. At the time she was helping build this infrastructure in the community, Premier Dunstan was introducing the first anti-discrimination legislation in Australia, the Sex Discrimination Act 1975, and Deborah was appointed to the Sex Discrimination Tribunal, a post she held until 1982. She left the public service to become, in what Josepha assures me are Deborah's words, and I quote, a lesbian hippie. But this didn't mean she ended her contribution. Rather, she took on numerous roles in violence intervention, in women's health, in disability information and resources. And she was active on the executive of the Women's Electoral Lobby South Australia from 1992 to 1999. She also served as a member of the Australian Native Title and Reconciliation Committee from 1991 to 1999 and a member of Reconciliation South Australia from 1998 to 2004. And she was also a client representative of the South Australian Legal Services Commission from 1993 to 2006. Feminism was Deborah's most significant influence. However, she recognised the breadth of commitment to change that equality demands, working in her later life with Indigenous women and culturally and linguistically diverse communities. She was awarded an honorary doctorate by Flinders University in 1994 and became a member of the Order of Australia in June 2005 for services to the community as a proponent of equal opportunities for women, Indigenous Australians and people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. Well deserved. I join with the Women's Electoral Lobby and with women across South Australia to pay tribute to Deborah McCulloch's contribution to our community and to feminism. And I extend my condolences to her son David, her daughter Ella, and all of her family and close friends. Reg Coutts. It was with great sadness that I contributed a message at the memorial service of Professor Reg Coutts last month. Reg was a Labor man, a true believer who dedicated much of his life to the Labor cause. He worked tirelessly for a fairer and more caring society. And he believed that if you want change, you have to stand up and fight. And he did just that when he took up the challenge of representing Labor in the 2018 Mayo by-election. It's not an easy electorate to cover, especially in the short time available in a by-election, stretching from the edge of the Barossa Valley across the Mount Lofty Ranges to the Fleurieu Peninsula and Kangaroo Island. That Reg took on this ambitious challenge when his party called is a demonstration of his commitment to the Labor project. And it was through this work as a candidate that I came to know him personally and to understand the depth of his dedication to Labor values of fairness and care for others, as well as to nation building and good public policy. Within the Mayo FEC and the Hyson and Cavell sub-branches in the Adelaide Hills in particular, Reg was regarded as an intellectual leader. As one member reflected, Reg had a big brain and a big heart. And he helped with galvanising a small group of members who felt their local party meetings needed more energy and leadership. And the consequence is that Labor membership in this area is thriving, with a dedicated group of true believers eager to come together and to share the Labor message in their local communities. And they will continue to carry the torch that Reg helped to light with his policy and political capacity. Before relocating to South Australia with his family in 1993 to take up a professorship at the University of Adelaide, Reg and his wife Pam were active Labor members in the Victorian branch, and through the 80s and 90s they came to know such luminaries as Robert Ray, Race Matthews, Joan Child and Simon Crean. Reg was also a Labor councillor for Oakleigh in the City of Monash local government area. In his professional life, Reg was an expert in the fields of commercial radio technologies and telecommunications. He was involved in helping envisage the original National Broadband Network, the NBN, and in 2007 the then Communications Minister, Stephen Conroy, appointed Reg to the Rudd Labor government's 6-member expert NBN panel. That appointment was for professional reasons, but nevertheless Reg enjoyed his engagement with Minister Conroy. However, following the election of the Abbott-Turnbull-Morrison government in 2013, he noted, along with many of his fellow Australians, and I quote, "It's with a sad heart that I've watched this dream turn to disappointment through the implementation of a revised second-rate system. Those opposite have much to answer for in their squandering of this significant opportunity for lasting national infrastructure investment." Reg Coutts was also a member of the Australian Communications and Media Authority. Reg was a truly remarkable person. He cared deeply about his family, his community and his fellow Australians. He lived his life pursuing the great Australian and Labor vision of a fair go for all. Reg Coutts will be greatly missed by the Labor family and all those who loved him and admired him. And I again offer my sincere condolences to Pam and Louise and all of their family for the loss of Reg. I thank the Senate.